A skilled warrior embarks on a long journey on a quest to find a mysterious artifact that is promised to end all wars. This is Exile! Exile is one of 12 games included in Evercade Cartridge 23, Renovation Collection 1. The evolution of the game series is actually quite interesting. This series starts with Exile, which was released in 1988 for the MSX, NEC PC-88, PC-98, and the Sharp X1, only in Japan. Exile 2 was the second game and was released later that same year for these same platforms, again in Japan only. Exile is the next game, and it's actually a remake of Exile 2. It was released 3 years later for the Sega Genesis and TurboGrafx CD, and was the first game in the series to be released in North America. The Sega Genesis version of the game is the one included in this collection. The final game in the series was Exile: Wicked Phenomenon, and it was only released for the TurboGrafx CD. Now, Exile is a remake of Exile 2. However, there was a significant portion of the game's story removed and alterations in some of the events that happened during the game. Also, the Exile games referred to real people and places grounding the story in modern history, but Exile renames all of that to make the game more fantasy-based. The renaming also extends to healing items, as in XDR they were all based on real drugs, whereas those references were removed in Exile. There are additional differences between the Genesis and TurboGrafx CD versions of the game, aside from the CD enhanced features, as the Genesis version censors and removes certain scenes revolving around graphic violence and nudity. I could keep going on and on about the differences in all these games for a while, but instead I'll direct you to two videos from the YouTube channel Basement Brothers that go into a lot of those details if you're interested. They are fantastic videos. Now, the story of the Exile series focuses on a character named Sadler, a desert warrior and his adventures, which usually have him traveling to distant lands and sometimes through time. Since Exile is a remake of Exile 2, it picks up right after the events of Exile, which could be a bit confusing if you didn't realize it, because the game doesn't really introduce us to the characters from the first game, and it just kind of assumes we know who they are. The main plot of this game involves Sadler accepting a mission to find an artifact called the Holimax, which supposedly has the ability to unite all mankind, which in turn would eliminate war as a whole. Exile is an action RPG that is broken out into three basic gameplay sections. There's the RPG element, presented in an overhead view where you and your companions walk around, talk to people, and buy equipment and supplies. And I should note that you only really need to worry about the equipment and items for your main character, Sadler, as your companions change out often and they never help you fight. They are there for story purposes only. Then there are action sequences which play out in a side-scrolling platforming style, and lastly there's a map screen where you can choose the next location you'd like to visit. As soon as you leave a location, the map shows up and you simply select your next location and you're instantly there. For an action RPG, this game is pretty linear and short. It's also incredibly easy if you grind up levels early in the game. Sadler's max level is 17, and that might tell you something about how short this game is. The action sequences in this game aren't exactly refined. The characters are so big that often they'd appear on the screen and I'd get hit before I could even react. Sometimes I'd enter a room just to spawn right on top of an enemy. The hitboxes are also crazy, as I've noticed instances where an enemy's attack would completely miss me visually, but I'd somehow get hit anyway. The few magical abilities Sadler has are all used pretty strangely. If it's an offensive magic, it'll be applied to your sword, so every time you attack you'll be spending magic points until you remove it. The RPG element of this game isn't that great either. Like I said, it's all pretty linear. Somebody will always tell you exactly where you need to go. There's never more than 2 or 3 location options at any one time, and there's really no side quests, well, aside from obtaining the Void Sword, which just involves going through one of the dungeons again immediately after you just went through it. There aren't a whole lot of items or equipment to purchase throughout the game, but nearly everything is so cryptically named, and the game never tells you what any of the items actually do, so you have to look that information up in the game's original manual or somewhere else online. It seems like that's information that Blaze should have put in the manual for this collection. I mean, they gave this game 2 pages in the manual, but most of it is devoid of actual information. One bit of information I couldn't find anywhere though was how to open the chests I encountered during the action levels. I couldn't figure it out. I tried walking over it, attacking it, I tried accessing it through the menus, I tried pushing down while I was standing over it and then trying that with a button, and nothing was working, and not even the game's original manual said specifically how to open a chest. I went through most of the game before I realized that you had to push up while standing over a chest to open it. Is it just me? Is it supposed to be that obvious? It seems really counterintuitive to me. Overall, I can't say that I like the game, but there's something about it that prevents me from disliking it as well. So here we are with all the games in the Renovation Collection, and I'm going to put Exile here on Tier C. I'm going to put it above Dino Land because I think I would rather play Exile than Dino Land. And here we are with our all Evercade game tier rankings, and Exile has got to go on Tier C, and I've got to find a place for it above Dino Land. I think that this is a good spot right here, right above the Atari 7800 version of Desert Falcon and right below Power Pigs of the Dark Ages. I didn't find any codes or anything for this game, but I did stumble upon a way to level Sadler up without much effort. I started playing this game pretty late one day, and only about 5 minutes into the first action level, I found a spot where I could just stand in one spot swinging my sword, and a big bug would just keep respawning and instantly get killed. So I put my controller on auto fire and went to sleep. In the morning, Sadler had reached his maximum level. Not only that, but he had maxed out his money as well, which meant I could buy anything I wanted for the rest of the game. It was maybe a cheap tactic, but I'm glad I did it. And that'll wrap it up for Exile. Next time, we'll be looking at Final Zone from the same cartridge, Renovation Collection 1.